Let us continue on with Kapitel 20. So we have the exercises from the end of the last unit. We had these little dialogues and they contain zu infinitive phrases. So Jutta says, macht es dir Spaß, jeden Morgen 3 Kilometer zu joggen? So of course the zu joggen at the end will indicate that we're dealing with an infinitive phrase, and this whole thing after the comma counts as the infinitive phrase. And then Sylvia says, nicht immer, aber es hilft mir, fit zu bleiben. So, is it fun for you to jog 3 kilometers every morning? So, to jog 3 kilometers every morning is like the whole phrase. And so you take zu joggen and you put it at the front of the phrase in English. Is it fun for you? Macht es dir Spaß? And then to jog. So to jog has been moved up here. To jog 3 kilometers. Yeah. Nicht immer, aber es hilft mir, fit zu bleiben. Not always, but it helps me. Yeah, and so you could say it helps me stay fit or helps me to stay fit. Yeah. Fit zu bleiben, to stay fit. Laura says, hast du wirklich vor, einen Wagen zu kaufen? And then Markus says, klar, ich habe keine Lust, immer mit dem Bus zu fahren. So, are you really planning to buy a car? Hast du wirklich vor? Are you really planning to buy a car? Klar, of course, clearly. Ich habe keine Lust. I said I don't want to, I'm not in the mood to. Lots of different ways to translate Lust haben, but I think I don't want to is fine for this one. I don't want to ride the bus all the time. You could also say, I don't feel like riding the bus all the time. And if you say you don't feel like, then you would need the ing in English, just depending on which one you're going with. Has to sort of make sense in English as well. I don't want to ride, I don't feel like riding the bus all the time. Jens says, hast du vergessen, Günther anzurufen? So here we've got a separable prefix verb, and then the zu is not before the verb, like you would expect with like zu kaufen. It's just the zu and then the infinitive. But if we've got a separable prefix, the zu finds its way into the verb itself, in between this prefix and the rest of the verb. And then, nein, ich hatte heute keine Zeit, mit ihm zu sprechen. So this is a normal one, to speak with him. So, did you forget to call Günther? Did you forget Günther to call? As in, did you forget to call? So of course you got to move that back over there. And then, no, I didn't have time to speak with him today. Ich hatte heute keine Zeit, mit ihm zu sprechen. So, to speak with him. Yeah. Lukas says, habt ihr Lust, heute Abend mit uns tanzen zu gehen? So now we have two infinitives, and then the zu goes right before the last one, which is, do y'all want to go dancing with us tonight? Yeah, do you want to go dancing? So the German doesn't have an ing type situation, it just has the two infinitives, right? So do you want, do you want to, or do you feel like going dancing? And if you say, do you feel like, then you need two ings, right? Do you feel like going dancing? Or if you say, do you want to, then you just say, go dancing. Nein, wir haben vor, einen guten Film anzuschauen und danach noch in die Kneipe zu gehen. No, we're planning to watch a good movie and then go to the pub afterwards. So, we are planning, wir haben vor, einen guten Film anzuschauen, and this is a separable prefix again, an and schauen, but zu is in the middle there, to watch a good movie, and then to go to the pub. Yeah. Okay, so now we have some verbs plus prepositions. You've seen these happen in various contexts, but now we finally get to the unit where you actually see what's going on in a more systematic way, which I think is very helpful. It's always good to have addressed these explicitly. Verbs that have prepositions along with them, which we also have in English. So observe, konzentrieren Sie sich auf das Wichtigste. So konzentrieren Sie sich, that's concentrate, right? And then auf is just a preposition that sort of goes along with this verb, and then we end up with a prepositional phrase, right? On what's important, on what's most important, on the most important thing. So in English we say concentrate on, and in German it's konzentrieren Sie sich auf. So it's just like certain verbs have certain prepositions that just go with them. They just go together, right? So we do this in English. If you use the wrong one, it sounds weird, right? Imagine if you said concentrate in what's most important or concentrate over what's most important. It just doesn't work. It's concentrate on. That's just what it is, concentrate on. So just like in English, German, some German verbs have prepositions that just match with them, right? So, but they're not always parallel to the English one. So off in some contexts does mean on, so that one kind of makes sense. It's a little bit like the English one. So when you look in the dictionary, this one's also reflexive. So you've got reflexive, and then you've got the verb, and then in the dictionary it should list if there's a way to use this with a preposition, then it'll say what that is plus what the noun case you need to be using after is. So this one is accusative. So this is like all the information you need to be able to use that in real life. It's like it tells you this is reflexive, and it uses auf to mean on, and then after your auf, you're going to have an accusative. So it could be dative. Some of these are dative and some are accusative. So just like the prepositions are always going to take, whichever case they're going to take. This one's two ways, so that's why it's really important to know which is which. Ich warte auf den Bus, which is I'm waiting for the bus. Now this is a good example of one where it's different than English. So in English we say I'm waiting for. You can't say I'm waiting of or I'm waiting in or something. I mean, it would mean something different, right? I'm waiting for is you wait for something. You don't wait under something or whatever it is, right? So ich warte auf. That's just what it is. Ich warte auf. And you see that auf, it means, a lot of times it means more of on, but you could say I'm waiting on the bus. We might say I'm waiting on something. We do that sometimes in English, but that's not the standard form. The standard is waiting for. So you see it's not the same as in English. So you can't expect them to be the same preposition that you would have in English. So you might have to translate that preposition as something that it would not normally be, because auf would not normally be for. For is normally für, right? So there are very few contexts in which auf means für. Basically, with warten, it means for. So warten auf plus accusative. That's just how you use the verb to wait for, right? To wait auf. So ich freue mich auf die Reise. This is I'm looking forward to the trip. And so you just learned that it's as a unit, the whole thing is reflexive, sich, and then freuen is the main verb. And then when you say I'm looking forward to, that's auf. That's the equivalent. And then it needs accusative. But here is an interesting thing. In some cases, the preposition that goes with the verb can change the meaning. So, ich freue mich über die guten Nachrichten, which means I'm happy about the good news. So that's sich freuen über as opposed to sich freuen auf. So what's happening is you change that preposition, and then instead of looking forward to something, you're happy about something in the present tense. So it has a different meaning because of this different preposition. Yeah. And then ich denke an einen Film von Werner Herzog. So that one goes, I'm thinking of a film by Werner Herzog. Like you're trying to recall something. I'm thinking of a film. What is that film, right? I'm thinking of a film. It could also be about. I'm thinking about a film. In English, thinking of, thinking about, it's basically the same thing. So ich denke an is then denken an plus accusative. That's how you say I'm thinking of or about something. Ich erinnere mich an die guten alten Zeiten. So, which is, of course, I remember the good old times. So, sich erinnern an. Erinnern is to remember, but it's always reflexive. So, to remember, sich erinnern. And then in English, we don't use a preposition. I remember direct object, right? In English, there's no preposition there. But in German, there is an. So you just have to sort of memorize that sich erinnern an is the whole phrase for to remember. And then if you want to use it, you have to use all those elements. You have to conjugate the verb, use a reflexive, and then use the preposition that goes with it, and then whatever comes after is in the accusative. And so the thing is, erinnern can actually be non-reflexive, but if you don't use the reflexive, it means remind. So sich erinnern kind of means remind oneself. It's like in your head, you're reminding yourself of it. That's what remembering is, in a sense. So technically, it means I remind myself of the good times. So you can see if you think about erinnern as remind, then we would use a preposition. But this is not a very good translation. This is just to show what's happening here, but it's not a good translation because we wouldn't say it like that in English. It would not convey the same meaning. The meaning is really remember, but you can see how there's a sort of parallel construction if erinnern, because you can remind someone else. Ich erinnere dich, I remind you. So that's also possible. That's why it means remind. Gretchen fragt Faust, ob an Gott glaubt. So glauben an plus accusative means to believe in. So we have Gretchen asks Faust whether he believes in God. So ob an Gott glaubt. And so in English we would say believe in God, and in German you would say an Gott. So that's quite different, right? It's not in. You don't say glaubt in Gott. You say glaubt an Gott. So that's just glauben and an just go together. And then ich muss mich auf die Prüfung vorbereiten. So the whole verb unit, this verb has lots of fun features. This verb combines a lot of things we've talked about, right? So it's a separable prefix, vor, and then bereiten. And then we have it's what do you call it? That's a reflexive. And then it has its own preposition that goes with it, and then it also has, it takes an accusative after the auf. So, ich muss mich auf die Prüfung vorbereiten. I have to prepare myself for the test. So in English you'd say prepare myself for, and in German it's auf. So quite unexpected. And then ich bereite mich auf die Prüfung vor. So that's the same. This is just to show you that the separable prefix is at the end. So this is with a modal verb, muss. So our verb is all together at the end because it's an infinitive. Modal verb makes infinitive happen at the end. So our verb is, it's an infinitive, it's all together. So you wouldn't necessarily know, it's not obvious that it's a separable prefix unless you know that for is a separable prefix. But just to show you in the present tense how this can look, because it can be a little bit confusing with the auf here and the for here, because they're both basically prepositions, right? A separable prefix looks like a preposition most of the time. So what's happening is I prepare myself for the test, and then for is just part of the verb. Sich vorbereiten means to prepare oneself. So you could say I ready myself for. I ready myself for the test, but then for, it's like there's no way to translate it where for would be there, right? So it's just important to know that this whole verb unit has a prefix and has a preposition that goes with it, and the auf is like the equivalent of for the test, auf die Prüfung. But then for is just part of the verb that's been removed. It's just the prefix that belongs to the verb that's been removed, as you do with separable prefixes. Yeah. So, ich danke dir für die Blumen. This one is, every once in a while they do map on one-to-one to English. So I thank you for the flowers. Für means for, and it's just like English. Ich danke dir für die Blumen. I thank you for the flowers. Danken für plus accusative. So that one's easy. Danken uses a dative object though, so that's a little tricky. But this part with the preposition is totally straightforward, so that one is the easiest when they happen to match, but they don't always match. Ich habe mich für Vanderbilt entschieden. I decided on Vanderbilt. So sich entscheiden, to decide. And then if you want to say you decide on something, it's actually für. So that's very unexpected. You wouldn't say I decided for Vanderbilt. You say I decided on. So sometimes you have to change that preposition in the translation in a quite unexpected way. We have wir bitten Ihr Verständnis. Bitten means to request or ask for. So bitten plus accusative. Is always accusative. Durch, für, ohne, gegen, bis, entlang. So we ask for your understanding. A lot of times means around, like going around the house. Das Haus. So what would this be? We ask around your understanding. That's not right at all. We ask for your understanding. So it's just that this all goes together, and the equivalent of bitten in German is ask for in English, or request just without a preposition. We request. You could also do. Ich frage nach einer Gehaltserhöhung. So I'm asking for. Frage nach is to ask for something plus dative, because nach is always dative. Außer bei mit Nachzeit von zu. So Frage nach is just the unit that means ask for. Nach doesn't usually mean for in English, but it does here. And then du hast mir von diesem Restaurant erzählt. Erzählen von means to tell someone about. So you told me of this restaurant. Von is of most of the time. So you told me of this restaurant, or you told me about this restaurant. So that one you can kind of see how it's similar to English if you did of instead of about. And that would also be correct, but about is probably a little more common. And then sie hat sich von ihm getrennt. So that one is she broke up with him. It's more literally, it's she separated herself from him. So sich trennen von is to separate oneself from plus the dative, but it's the real translation is break up with, because separate has a different connotation. So this is how you talk about breaking up with people, right? Sich trennen von, to break up with. So in that case, you end up with in English, which is very different from von in German. Yeah. And then she separated herself from him would be like the very parallel translation, but in practice, it's really she broke up with him. And then dieses Hemd passt zu dieser Hose. This is when you're talking about things sort of going together or matching. This shirt matches with these pants, or it goes with these pants. So zu, passend zu just means goes with or matches well with. Yeah. So of course zu meaning with, pretty rare, right? And then ich arbeite an einen Aufsatz. Arbeiten an plus accusative is to work on. So I'm working on an essay. That one's not too bad because an kind of sounds like on. And then we have some more examples. So this is where it is in the textbook. So some of them have parallel structures in English. For example, vergleichen mit is to compare with, right? So mit means with, so that's no problem. You wouldn't have to, learn that separately. You would just think, okay, you look up vergleichen, and that means compare, and then you see mit, and you're like, oh, that means with, compare with. All right, we're done. And then arbeiten an, it to work, and then an is in many cases on, and it looks like on, so it's not going to be a problem. But sometimes they are different, where the dictionary will help you to understand what that preposition actually means in combination with that verb. So we have halten für, which halten means to hold or to stop. So the context changes things radically with halten. It's kind of a vague verb, right? So sometimes when you see a verb and there's a preposition near it, it's the only way to get the right meaning is to read the entire entry read the entire dictionary entry for that verb, and then somewhere within the entry you will see an example with that preposition. It will have its own listing because it'll have its own part of the entry because it has a different translation. So halten für plus accusative, because für always is accusative. So to consider someone to be, so it's like ich halte dich für intelligent. I consider you smart. I consider you intelligent. Ich halte dich für intelligent. That's what that would be. Or to think someone is. So I think you are intelligent. Ich halte dich für intelligent. Or to mistake someone for, like, you like see someone and then it's like, oh, I thought that was my friend, but it wasn't. He turned around and it wasn't my friend. I mistook him for my friend, could also be the meaning. Yeah. And then hält ihn für den Besitzer, he thinks he's the owner. Yeah. And then ich halte es für richtig, dass absagt. I think I consider it right. Ich halte es für richtig. I think he's right, or I consider it to be the right thing. Yeah. And then it gives you a bunch of examples. So it's just important to read the whole entry, and then you'll get examples with the actual preposition with it, and then you can choose which of the examples looks the most like the thing you're trying to translate, and then you use that one. And so we have some more. Denken an, we had plus accusative, to think about. So denkt an uns, he's thinking about us. And then erinnern an. So here we have both of them. So erinnern an without the reflexive means to remind of. So erinnert mich an meinen Bruder. He reminds me of my brother, not reflexive. He reminds me. Erinnert mich, not reflexive. But sich erinnern an, all we've done, we have the same verb and the same preposition, but now it's reflexive. So it's to remember, as in I remind myself in my head, I remember. So erinnert sich gut an uns, he remembers us well. Yeah. So we're still going to use the an. And then sich gewöhnen an, to get used to, become accustomed to. So wir gewöhnen uns an das Wetter hier. We're getting used to. Yeah, so get used to in English, but an is different from to, right? So you notice that you need to recognize that this is a whole unit. And so if you look up gewöhnen in the dictionary, then it will list an, and it'll give you examples with an, so that is clear that it should be translated as get used to. Yeah. Glauben an, to believe in. So glaubt an Gott, he believes in. And so you could do this with believe in any sort of ideology or whatever it is. Yeah. Ich glaube an whatever. Ich glaube an dir. I believe in you, right? I have faith in you. I believe in you. Ich glaube an dir. Yeah. And then leiden an, to suffer from. So leiden an is very different from, right? So sie leidet an Rückenschmerzen. She suffers from backache. Yeah. Teilnehmen an with a separable prefix, to take part in. Nehmen Sie an einem Filmkurs teil? Do you take part in a film course? Yeah. Okay, so then we have zweifeln an, to doubt. So this one is one where you end up not having a preposition in English. Wir zweifeln an den Resultaten. We doubt the results. You could think of it as we have doubt in the results. Then you would have a preposition in English, but you don't have to translate it that way, just to give you an idea of like why there would be a preposition there. So an plus dative, to doubt. Zweifeln an. And then achten auf, to pay attention to. Auf turns into to in the translation. Ich muss auf meine Linie achten. I have to pay attention to my waistline. Antworten auf plus accusative. Antworten Sie auf die Frage. Answer the question. So here, to answer, we don't have a preposition there at all. It's like give an answer to the question, I guess. So just answer the question. So the auf completely disappears in the translation. Sich freuen auf, look forward to. Ich freue mich auf das Wochenende. I'm looking forward to the weekend. And then they have sich freuen über. I don't think that one is here as well, but we had that already. Just to note, sich freuen auf versus sich freuen über, which means to be glad about. Hoffen auf, so to hope for, auf in German, but for in English. Wir hoffen auf gutes Wetter. We are hoping for good weather. Warten auf, to wait. Yeah, so in English you could say on or for. To wait for is the standard version, but then sometimes also to wait on. Who are you waiting for? Auf wen warten Sie? Accusative. So for whom are you waiting, or who are you waiting for? Bestehen Sie aus, or bestehen aus, yeah, to consist of. So bestehen aus, that's all sounds like out of or from, but then in English it's consist of. Also, I think it sometimes consists in, so that's always interesting. And then das Buch besteht aus 25 Kapiteln. The book consists of 25 chapters. Yeah, aus. And then sich beschäftigen mit, to deal with, to be busy with, to busy oneself with, right? Or just to have as a topic. So the book deals with the film. Das Buch beschäftigt sich mit dem Film, mit Film. Yeah. Oh, the book deals with film, the whole field. Yeah, not just the film, but film. So the book deals with film. And then, so this one's with in English as well as mit in German, so that's a very straightforward one. Fragen nach, to ask about. So nach isn't really about, is it, in English? So that's the tricky one. Hat sie nach uns gefragt? Did she ask about us? Yeah. And then we got a bunch more fun ones. Sich sehnen nach, to long for. Sie sehnen sich nach Deutschland. Very beautiful poetic word. Schmecken nach, to taste of or to taste like. Das Essen schmeckt nach Knoblauch. The food tastes, or the meal tastes, of garlic or like garlic. Sich freuen über, here we have to be pleased about, to be happy about. Er freut sich über seinen Erfolg. He's pleased with his success, or he's happy about or pleased with. Klagen über, to complain about. So über means about in many contexts. So this one's very straightforward. You wouldn't have to like memorize it separately. That über means something other than with klagen, right? So to complain about. Klage nicht über deine Freunde. Don't complain about your friends. Lachen über, to laugh about. Same as English. Laugh about. Lachen über. And then nachdenken über, to reflect upon. Yeah, to consider. So denkt über seine Ziele nach. He's reflecting upon his goals. So this is, I think these ones with the separable prefixes and a preposition that goes along with them are the trickiest one, because you get über and then seine Ziele and then nach, and so they both look like prepositions. So it's just it's important to understand where that's coming from. Sprechen über, or reden über, to talk about, just like English über, about. So those are easy. Sprechen wir über deutsches Kino? Let's talk about German cinema. Streiten über, to fight about, just like English über, about. Bitten we had already, to request or to ask for. And then sich kümmern, to take care of. And that's quite unexpected, because usually means about, but here, usually means around. And then here it means of. He takes care of. Er kümmert sich seine alte Mutter. He takes care of his elderly mother. Halten von, so we had halten für a minute ago, and that was like to consider someone something, or to think it is something. And then it's halten von is a slightly different situation. So it's still, halten von is like, what do you think of that? You're asking for someone's opinion. Was halten Sie davon? And then ich halte das für would be, I consider it to be this way. Yeah. So they're very similar, but it's basically, this one comes up in the questions. You want to know someone's opinion. So it's good to look at examples of both of those, but they have a similar meaning. They're translated similarly. You'll see halten für. Ich halte dich für intelligent. I think that you are intelligent. And then was halten Sie davon? What do you think of that? So they have similar translations, so it shouldn't be too tricky. Sich fürchten vor, Angst haben vor, to be afraid of. So fürchtet sich vor dem Hund. Oh, very few typos in this book, but that H should be capitalized. Hat Angst davor, he's afraid of it. So in English, you're afraid of something, and in German, you have fear in front of something. Vor is like in front of, right? Schützen vor, to protect from. So to protect in front of, you could say. So protect from. Schützen vor. Die Mauer schützt sie vor Feinden. The wall protects them from enemies. Warnen vor, same thing, to warn about in English, but then to warn in front of in German. So third-person pronouns representing an inanimate object or concept do not usually occur as objects of prepositions, but are replaced with a da compound. Da plus preposition, and this is coming up in chapter 23. They're called da compounds, and just to notice, there was one example here, Angst davor. He's afraid of it. So when you're going to say of it, with it, about it, all of the preposition plus it is a da compound, da plus preposition. So if you had warnen Sie ihn vor der Gefahr, so instead of, like, normally with a person you would say vor ihr if it were a feminine person here, right? But that's only for people. So if you want to use a preposition with an inanimate object, there's just this other construction used with da, and it becomes vor der Gefahr, becomes davor. So warn him of the danger, or warn him about the danger, warn him about it. So we'll do that later, chapter 23. You can look forward to that. That's just to note that was happening in one of the examples a moment ago. So we have some exercises for you to do at the end of this unit. And then we have a bunch of these verbs we were just talking about, so you can make sure that you're getting a nice, elegant English translation of those verbs with their prepositions. And then we've got a little story as well that contains a bunch of these special verbs with their prepositions. Viel Spaß und wir sehen uns im nächsten Video. Tschüss, bis gleich.